And literally a minute later, here is Transformers Legacy. Okay. Quest to move the planet, based on a premise by Adam Brown and his mother, Tori Brown. Yeah, sort of, kind of. The other story, sort of, kind of. Like dialogue-wise, it's kind of like something. And the Andraxis story is by Belinda Kelly, who I don't know. Story by Cal Cat from Lexicons. And yeah, so it's the Star Trek one was a little over 106 pages. It translated to about 103 minutes. This one is 92 exactly. Yeah, 92 pages. We are merely advanced robots, not like Primus. We are his children. Father's different. I am Optimus Prime, and I send this message to all Transformers and Cybertronians out there. We are here. We are waiting. Transform your destiny. Be more than meets the eye. Yeah, there's been a lot of use of legacy everywhere. The first thing that happened over at the new DC, well, the other cast member arrived. Don't call it Superman Legacy. Call it Superman. Oh yeah, that's probably a better title. So they changed it. It's just Superman. Now what they need to do is put in some of that John Williams musical score. Bum ba da ba bum ba ba da. Not so much as they did in Superman Returns, which was kind of dour, but just a little bit. Just throw it in there, some fanfare. It's got to be epic. Yeah. But yeah, Legacy. There's too much Legacy, and Star Trek Legacy turns out is a fan film. So go watch that. We're gonna go on and do the Transformers thingy. Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna start this. Looks like they're on a planet thing. And to clarify the Andraxis Wrath Belinda Kelly stuff, Belinda Kelly, who at the time of writing that story was about 23, is now in her 40s. Don't know her, but the only PM from that character back in the day. Over the what was it, Google thing? She went to the Google thing. You know, she found it somehow. She was all, I had another series, another story. You might want to do the Commander one, the Starscream one. Ooh, and I went and looked up the Starscream one, and I said, yes, I'm definitely. And I said, okay, we're doing this one, even though it was like an extra hour, an hour and a half, an extra hour and a half. And we have to do this because it's cool. We have to do a Starscream one where he's the Emperor on planet. We got to do that. Yes, but yeah, not anymore. There's no Google connection. Yes, you can't Google me. Sorry. So we have where's the Spike and Ship? A little smaller cast. Autobots and Decepticons. Looks like about 3 main Decepticons, but some others, a handful of others. About 7 or 8 Autobots and the Dinobots. And some human characters and some G.I. Joes. About another 8. Much smaller than the Star Trek cast. Or the Star Trek one. But, Transformers. Clang. And I said, Peter Cullen himself said that in order to do Optimus Prime's voice, you have to do it, a certain way. A little bit of twarm of John Wayne. But also, because he kind of just sounds like that anyway. But his older brother was a Marine. And he had this sort of booming voice, commanding voice, and Peter Cullen, he's all like, yeah, he's all, he sort of put a little bit of a twarb in it, so he sounds a little like this, and then, like the Duke, kind of, but then you gotta, put it back, so it's like, I am Optimus Prime, and I send this message, but yes, and there's Megatron, of course. Megatron, who's a slightly gravelier voice. Decepticon, gets more gravelly as Frank Welker gets older. Impressed with the premise that back in the day I could do during the series I was able to do the sound wave without the modulated voice. It's not modulated. I am Soundwave. I can totally do that. It works. Rat bat, eject. So an old comment back today said, well, Frank Welker said, well, I'm not out of a job yet. No, you're not. It's all good. So no, you're not. No, I'm not that good. I'm not. Put us next to each other. No, no, even close. Close enough. So we got Megatron, and now we got Night Racer. I'm the Babbage one. I think that's a typo. And of course, Starscream, the mighty, the great the legendary Crystallata. It's not a bad voice to do either. Now Megatron. Yes. Get in the mood, you see. Psst. Spike. Spike is, in this version, sort of like Prime a little 2. A little more twarmy almost, like, oh, Daniel, come over here. That kind of thing. No. Yeah, so, yeah, the Robotech guys being off on the other side of the galaxy with some of the Autobots make this story kind of funny that it's in the same genre. Like the Star Trek story, it doesn't necessarily further the universe. It's just a fun story where they're on a planet. This one, they go to the Wrath Planet, and they have to move the Wrath Planet, which is a spaceship, basically. Planet ship. We got a planet ship story. I figured they're never going to do the planet ship stories of Adam Brown, my Adam Brown character, my real name. They're not going to do Distant Destinies as a series, or a Canary Space as a series, and have planet ships flying around, because there's a planet ship in there. So I decided to do it here. This is actually sort of a kind of a retelling of one of those. But it is its own thing. They were both done a little after Valentine's Day this year, around the 17th, 18th, 19th February, and then shot on film the Star Trek one. 8 days before the end of the month. I'm expecting this one to take. The filming itself took 3 days, and so this one should take 3 days again. And you put the film together, so that by next Thursday it's done. Yeah, this is not going to be that hard. Famous last words. Transform your destiny. So yeah, I did a few scenes in the Transformers story. Basically all the scenes that involve the human characters out of mech suits in the G.I. Joe team, basically. So Spike and Daniel and the others are later. There's a brief scene where they are in a similar room, but I don't want to make it the same room. It'll be confusing. Literally the next scene they're in a room, so make it a room. It's Martian room on the Mars. The other time they go inside the Decepticon ship from the master. It was a Robotech, Transformer Robotech / ship. So we don't really know what it looks that much like. It's the ship that Berger and them used when they went down to contact to go to the Wrath Planet. So they're going to use that to try and activate the planet. But in that case, they would be in mech suits the whole time for the rest of the movie anyway. So they would be as Transformers. So yeah, everybody would be in a mech suit. So even if you did a scene where you're going to put them in the mech suit, if you did a scene where they were all in a control center, I think that wouldn't be as dynamic or interesting if they were just standing around a control center. It wouldn't be as interesting if they were all like driving it like it's a Power Ranger. It's more like they're not all in the same robot. They're individual robots, just to make it more visually interesting. I think that's what I had in mind. So they would have to assume robot suits to be larger, so they could operate the controls of the ship, and then the spur ship at the end. The ship spur stole at the end. In the other two scenes. So mainly the G.I. Joes are done. Mainly they're in battle armor through the rest of it. But yeah, you get to see them as humans early on. In the opening scene, basically, right? Boom, there they are, the opening scene. There isn't so much a teaser with credits afterward as credits, and then jump into the Joes. Do it that way. So also any shots of Red Planet, Mars, or / Wrath, you can do that in post. There's plenty of that in the footage, the space planet footage we have. So from our Pixels and other places that you can use for that. No need to overdo that either. Just like we didn't overdo it with the Star Trek ones. Also, you probably could use this as a vehicle, but I wouldn't necessarily because it looks too earthy. So don't use this. It looks too Earth-like. Planet Wrath. They probably have another spaceship for GI Joes on the thing. So use stock footage, basically. Stock footage of a vehicle. Yeah, no need to overthink that either. And the base. So, enjoy the Transformers movie. Yeah, it's another love letter to the fans, but to Transformers, which is 40 years old. To believe that show is 40 years old. That, like, back in the day, 1984, for a birthday present in 1984-85, Sideswipe was already kind of beat up when he was in the Trans series. He was one of the first ones, him and Jetfire and Devastator. So yeah, that's why there was a pact, because didn't have that many back then. They had Blitzwing too, and some of the Seekers. They had Thundercracker and Starscream, and Thrust first. I also had Ravage, one of the Predacons, and even back then they sold out immediately. So I had only one for many years. It wasn't until the second golden age of toys that they re-released them. You could get the cheaper one then that way. Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, we're not adding anybody new. We're using Earthrise Transformers and some GI Joes, and that Doc is being played by the Bruce Willis figure from Transformers. Yeah, it's not really Bruce Willis. It's not, and it's not really Vine Sauce, but the accent kind of sounds like Vine Sauce. But yeah, because I don't think he would. Well, he might, but no, we're not gonna ask. So yeah, just gonna assume the test footage is gonna work and go from there. So today is Sunday. On the set here, I think it's the 3rd, and yeah, so this was a day of filming, kind of. Well, we probably do a little more later, but the camera's running out of this one. Go to B unit stuff. We could do more, or we could stop and do more tomorrow. The movie to watch the dailies, dinner, and this kind of thing. Yeah, so we got up to the part of the page we went through 17 and 19, looking for where it matches up, where the Joes are in their vehicle and they're also in there. And Spike is in his exosuit. We got Chip Chase back in his Ironhide form. Apparently he's Ironhide. He's actually Studio Series 86 Ironhide. If you're interested, is that one, the 86 movie Ironhide. So yeah, so that's who he is, and so yeah, but he's the update. Yeah, he's the Legacy 86 Studio Series Ironhide. Studio Series, yeah. So yeah, so not to make him a sports car. In the script it says he's a sports car, but I thought there's enough sports cars. And also, yeah, so I also added, there wasn't a lot to the battle scene, so I showed kind of what was happening in the fight, so you can kind of tell. Otherwise, you'd have to reshoot it later. You don't want to do that. So yeah, Megatron bested everybody and basically shot everybody, and then they just left, so they're all messed up. And Hot Link apparently wasn't so damaged that he couldn't get back up and leave, because I don't think they captured him. Even if they didn't, I set it up so like when he got up, maybe they captured him later. Or maybe he got away with them. I think he got away with them. Yeah, I think he left. So I think it's fine. So yeah, the Decepticons broke the treaty and all that. Of course they did. They're Decepticons. It's in their nature. But yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's reminiscent of the return of Optimus Prime and bringing back Optimus Prime. It's reminiscent of the Synthoid episodes and the fan films about like humans and Transformers together and stuff. Very much like a Mush story, although it's an original one. It's apparently not. It's roughly based on yet more reunion stuff and goofy footage from Mom's journals, but done in a way that it's about like
instead of people, it's about the robots and stuff. It's kind of strange, but yeah, nobody's named in it. So yeah, anyway. So yeah, so that kind of didn't make any sense what I just said. Okay, so what's going on is the dialogue is similar to what would happen if Mom wrote a Transformers episode. She never did. A mystery Transformers episode, similar to the Star Trek one. The dialogue is similar to that. The idea of someone revealing they're pregnant. Several stories were about that. So, but this one is sort of a spoof of that in that she's got like a robot parasite inside her. It's not actually a baby. They also referenced Springer a little bit in the other story, which was messed up. They euthanized other RC in the other timeline. Baby RC. Well, teen RC, I guess. Well, it's a robot, so yeah, that was messed up. But that wasn't a real story. That was just like in the Lexicons episode about Springer. You kind of have to have known a little bit about the previous Lexicons series season a little bit, because you'd have to know how did they get Springer back. But you can go watch it. Yeah. So yeah. Here is the second unit footage of mainly Prime and note that the earlier scene when I opened that up that there were problems with the scene at the time, and we immediately went back and reshot that entire opening scene with the exosuit guys. I reshot it right after that, so use the reshot footage, not the earlier footage. You'll notice it when you edit it. Also, that Prime and I believe that's Power of the Prime's retool of Leo Prime done as Alpha Trion. So if you want one of those, go look it up. I'm sure they still have them on Amazon. And that's Earthrise Prime. Something. What? Anyway, so yeah. Yeah. So we also yeah. Yeah, there was a couple of websites mentioning toy stuff. We don't need to go into that because that's just going to go off on a tangent. But rather, we can discuss though TG Omega's excellent Primes video on the 13 Primes. He saw mine, and he said, "Okay, these are the 13 Primes. I'm going to respond and do. Okay, here's what they look like. Here are the 13 Primes." And in this story, yeah, there is some confusion, because the ones on TF Wiki and TF 2005 list an Onyx Prime and an Omega Prime, and there's like a thrown in there's like a Amalgamous, but there's also a combiner one that's a Minicon one. That would be the Onyx Prime is a Minicon one. So they mix the names up a little bit, and there's a Loki like one who's like, yeah. So they've mixed some of them up a little bit. But here in this story, we just chalk that up to this is a multiverse, and this is one of the versions of the Transformers. Amalgamous can also be Componus, and they're the ones, Commodus or whatever. He can be that because we said so. No, because in this universe he is the other guy. Clearly, the Primes were different in the Netflix series, the other Netflix Earthrise. They were clearly different there. They clearly didn't. They've been wiped out earlier in that version of the universe. So, yeah. Anyway, so there's there's some fun stuff coming up later. Tomorrow will be a full day shoot, and we'll be able to knock the middle chapter out of it, at least, hopefully. And so we get to see the Dinobots acting funny. This is it's not a laugh out loud comedy at this point. It's more like a space parody Transformers fun episode, sort of referencing various third season stories, Call of the Primitives and other ones. So it's not and we referenced something from the boards coming up. There's a part where Grimlock goes, I'm just making my voice sound like Cavebot. I'm not really. It's just kind of funny, because there was a discussion, an argument discussion on lexicons. Why does Grimlock sound like like he's an idiot. I mean, why would he sound like that all the time? Um, but they could program him to not sound like that, which they kind of did in the third season when he got that zapped in his brain. But then built the Computron guy, which is kind of, how did he make sparks? So yeah, they kind of answer that here. They kind of hint that Animalus Prime, or I think he's called Conus. I think he's actually something else. Animalus Prime should be the. I think they call him something else, but he should be Animalus Prime, and he's the first beast former, basically, instead of Commodibus. That just sounds cooler. And Animalus Prime is apparently Grimlock's Spark. Yeah, the Dinobots. They didn't have sparks yet in the OG show. They had personality components. They could put them in there. I'm assuming the Dinobots were taken from personality components of Transformers that they had on the ship, on the Ark. And they put them in the Dinobots. And they became the Dinobots. So you would think, though, that a spark of a prime would be obvious and they would have mentioned it. But the primes were invented, 13 primes were thought of many years later. If they had thought of it at the time, they would have gone with it at the time. But this one sort of cheekily references the Grimlock, the King Grimlock, the T-Rex King, as a descendant of Animalus, or maybe a follower of Animalus, in the same way that Optimus Prime is a follower of the 13th Prime. In a sense, he's got some of the essence of the 13th Prime via the Matrix, via the thing, the other stuff. Also, the Forge of Solus is way cooler in this version than they implied in the story. There's this thing on Cybertron. Well, actually, if they're space gods, the Forge of Solus is not Cybertron. The Forge of Solus is where Cybertron was built. Ah, yes. These are the original 13 primes as envisioned by by TF 2005 and some of these other guys in Gabriel Kwan's story too. That weird space prime thing we did last season 2 years ago. I also hinted at that those were supposed to be primes in there too. So we've done this stuff before, but this is a slightly different version. Like the Star Trek story is a slightly different version of that series. This is a slightly different version of Lexicons. It's basically a little more Lexicons. So we're giving you a little more, but unlike we didn't give you a Lexicons movie. This is the Lexicons movie. This is a follow up to we gave you the episodes, but not the movie. We gave you a finale, but not a movie. This is the movie. And it's cool that it's in the Transtech Robotech universe, which you don't really need to know, that the STF-3 and crew are off on their mission during the events of this story. So they're there. And they added to the Masters and the Zentradi and all that happened. And so the Transformers defeated them, apparently. They just had superior technology. They were able to defeat them. And the way that works is the Zentradi million ship fleet turned tail on the Masters, and they helped. That must have been what happened. They said, "Oh, we're not going to let you blow up the Earth." Yeah, so they fled. But you don't need to know all that. You just need to know there's a fun story about the Optimus Prime and Megatron have to team up to go on a quest. This is very similar to the throwback to that Tillala 1 story and the other Tillala 1 story as well. Yeah, so that's fun. We have in Shared Hallucinations. There's a lot of references, but you're probably a fan if you're watching the show anyway. But yeah, watch the other ones, but you watch this one too, and you can kind of watch them out of order, I guess. But you might want to watch them in order. But yeah, it's and we also have another archive where we have just the individual episodes instead of along with the reviews. This one will go up on the main channel and then later on the archive. So yeah, and if you want to check out longer archive versions of the Space Bridge and the Space Bridge trilogy of movies, stories, they are up there on that archive as well, on another archive. So, this has been so far a little hairy, but yeah, it's a little more technical. Going back to the kind of like getting in the groove a little more with what's going on. You wanna have your characters that were behaving in a way. The script is pretty on point, and I think the gag here with Alpha Trion at this point is that what would Alpha Trion's like generational thing be like, as though my mother wrote the Alpha Trion lines and made it sort of a generation thing where they're like, oh yeah, what happened if that? She didn't, but it's like, yeah. So, yeah, make it more mysterious and weird and trippy and stuff. Yeah, it's like back in the day when they were, she was the dementia was messing with her, but she did watch some of those Transformers episodes, and she liked the one where they she liked the one where the mystery of the they find the dead robot in front of the building. It's kind of a cool look. So that one. They couldn't figure out whether robot who did it and all that. It was one of the Decepticons. But yeah, I like that one. Also, there were some other ones, like the Springer one, where he goes to he's got to rescue they're going to rescue Primary, the Decepticon kidnaps her, do horrible things to her. Yeah, that was exciting. And those two were very popular out there. And also the in the past well, now it's 24 hours. It's the Star Trek parody story that we put up on the Star Trek channel. It's apparently had more views in the last 24 hours than half of, or if not most of, the other episodes and other seasons over there on that Chimera channel. It's had over 40 views since then, which wouldn't be a lot for a larger channel. But when you consider that there's only 31 subs on the Chimera channel, that means that that's an incredible number of views in just that short amount of time compared to the other ones. Some of those episodes that have been there 2 years have had 40 views. This one is just several hours. So they're loving that episode. They love that movie. Chimera. So hopefully they'll love this one too. Yeah, so over there on the other channel, which has the larger channel here has over 1,270 videos. That's a lot of videos. So yeah, so we have Autobots and Decepticons again doing stuff. The Robotech people are due to return in at some point in the series, according to those Sentinel stories. Over 15 years later, they come back. So it's a little while off till they come back. Late 2030s. It's only 2024 in the timeline of the Transformers stories. Yeah, and Cybertron has apparently been stuck in Earth orbit, or in the solar system at least, since 2008, the end of Transformers the show. And so it's that universe. And Earthspark is a parallel universe that's similar, where these other key events already happened, and Megatron and Prime teamed up and did other things, and that has Quintus Prime in it, which is interesting. They had a clever idea of saying Quintus Prime is the creator of the Quintessons. Now they kind of hinted. You get to see Quintus Prime though in the fourth Michael Bay movie, that weird King Arthur one. Quintessa was Quintus Prime. He showed up on Cybertron. That's who that was supposed to be. But they didn't do it right. No, they didn't. They didn't do the Dinobots right either. And which is weird, because that was the one where they introduced Cade Yeager, was the last name of Mark Skarsgård's real last name. And they had a Kattinger as well. They should have asked us. All three of us. And they could have asked... but they won't be in this. It'll just be me. Yeah. It's not some big conspiracy either. It's just that I can't afford to hire any voice actors. That's why. That's why there are no voice actors. But it's going to have the same credits as the Star Trek thing, because it's the same voice actors, quote unquote. So it is getting late, so I want to end it for the evening. And it's only 90 minutes. It's shorter than most of those Lexicon episodes actually. They were whole episodes. So yeah, it's not over long. So that's good. Yeah, that's good that it's not over long. And it doesn't need to have all the legends behind the 13 Primes thing. They think they're being really original with this Solus Megatronus thing, and Triangle with Legion Maximo, but technically, and the other guy, Onyx and Metalvis, but technically, Metalvis being the trickster. But it's not. It's very Greek tragedy, very Shakespearean kind of idea. Triangle, and there's a woman involved and two men, and they're fighting over her. So that's been around to ancient times. I think even before the Greeks and the Romans, I bet they had some sort of an old early Egyptian one that did that too. So even before them, so that premise of dudes fighting over a girl. Also, a similar parallel to the Star Trek story with, where they joked about it with several of the characters doing that triangle thing. So yeah, that's kind of a lot of them were doing that all the way through. The Star Trek one was far more flamboyant than this one is. This one's more robots, testosterone, robot boy story, Whereas the other one was more closer to the journals and stuff and stories and quirks. The other one is closer to a mom's story than this one is. That one was clearly more inspired by reunion stuff and stuff like that. With this one is more like, okay, some semi-angsty, angry Italian guys get together and they go on an adventure with the Irish guys, which they did a lot in the family. So yeah, this is kind of that. This is that. This is like after the Thanksgiving reunion, and they have to actually go on an adventure together and put up with each other. That's pretty much you're pretty much that's what this is about. So okay, I get it. Yeah, it works. Yeah, they gotta work together even though they they don't want to. Megatron doesn't represent anybody in the family, and Prime doesn't really represent anybody. It's they're Megatron and Prime, but the idea of that being universal, I think, is funny. Multiverse thing is fun. But I ran along here about the Transformers being back. Because they were popular. People were watching lexicons. I had to do more of them. They were like lexicons is the most watched spin-off of fan films. So I had to do more of them. That and a review of Jetfire, and another review of a cheap imitation knockoff. It wasn't really a knockoff. It was an official Shockwave toy that was 4 minutes long. I really liked. I remember back when I did that one, and then I tried to make a bunch of other ones where I did reviews, and no one watched the other ones. Something about that one that they just liked. The same length, I did a bunch of other before, But yeah, it's odd. Yeah, there's no telling how the algorithm works. You can't cheat the algorithm. It just does what it does. Could back in the day, but not anymore. Yeah, so, Transformers fan films. Oh, and somebody did a very cool, there's a couple other fan films out there. You want to check out some 3D guys did I don't really do 3D, I do action figures. So I wouldn't be hired on anything 3D. Some other guys put together a Kickstarter and a story. A continuation of Transformers Prime, Galvatron's Revenge, and the Dinobot scene as well. That's kind of cool. So go check that out on YouTube. I don't know who did it, but it's very cool. Yeah, it works. They also have a combiner scene. It's kind of odd. Yeah. Transformers Prime. Yep. So this is not that. I have a few Prime toys from Transformers Prime. A few of them, but yeah. I kept a third of the collection, and the other 2/3 got given away to the Goodwill. But I do have some of them left, so A lot of them left. I have boxes and boxes of them left. Someday when the hiatus ends and we move everything around, I will have a glorious Transformers playroom where I can just put them all up on shelves and do a Thews reviews type of deal or something. Just review my toys. I like this guy. He looked cool. But no, I can't be Thews reviews. He's too dynamic. He's pretty cool though. The English guy. He's he's over there in England. He's got like he transforms them and everything and makes quirky comments and stuff. Yeah. No. Only connection there was I entered the contest once to get Road Rage. The Road Rage toy. I didn't win. I did not get the toy. But what happened is there was a convention like a couple months after that. Just happened to be like a toy convention. And I went there and there was a Road Rage there. I got that. I went right back to that. It was funny. I was like, I got the Springer reissue and a Moon Racer, and immediately turned and ran back to the guy that had the Road Rage and said, "I'll take that too," before it's gone. He's all, "Oh, good call." Anyway, so I don't want to get flagged by YouTube for talking politics when this is about Transformers and it's about space characters trying to move a planet ship out of the Sol system and also space gods. So it has nothing to do with politics at all. It's just space. It is funny though in the beginning that they encounter the President Spurs guy and R.G. Berger who have walked out onto the surface of the alien planet and died on the planet. In a spoof of the Star Trek Chimera, it's an in-joke from the Chimera stories, which is weird because it's like, why was I in-joking something else? The in-joke stems from a previous joke, which was like kind of messed up but funny, in that a certain other president guy, Donnie Spurs, you can guess who that is. A certain other president guy, the joke was that it would be amusing if a certain Elon guy made a rocket ship and said, certain certain guy should go on my rocket ship to Mars and rule Mars instead of Earth. And the joke was that he goes to Mars and just gets tended to Mars without a spacesuit. So when he gets there, gets out of the rocket ship, he just gone, frozen on the surface of Mars. So that was the joke. This guy, this political guy, you see. Yeah. and it was in that episode of the Transformers. It was in that Shared Hallucination story. You can go back and watch that. And then you realize who we're talking about. And you'd be like, oh, that guy. Yeah, that guy. So what happened to him? Well, we find out what happened to him. Yeah, that guy. The bad guy in the story. The bad guy human that was causing the SDF war to happen on the planet. So, it's kind of like Edwards, but dumber. Yeah, not clever like Edwards. The character Edwards from Robotech. But rather sort of a buffoon. And you dealt with Cobra Commander, though. And Starscream. They finally got together. It was in a hilarious scene in which 70-something-year-old Cobra Commander talks to Starscream and he was like, yes, it's interesting that we never had a team-up at all. It's weird, except in the comic books. Yes, Cobra Commander, that is weird. You'd think we would have, considering our voice actor was the same guy. Yes. Very interesting. Yes. Their voice actor was the late legendary Chris Lutta, who was the voice of Starscream and Cobra Commander. And in person, his voice wasn't really that high, but sort of like mine. But yes, yeah. Not to be confused with Frank Welker, the voice of Megatron on Soundwave. different guy. Or the voice of Optimus Prime, Peter Cullen, who just got an award for Lifetime Achievement Award a couple of months ago for by the was it the Emmys? Look at the Emmys gave him. They should give him an. As Frank Welker once said at a con, "I'm not out of a job yet, kid." Nope, you're not. But yes. So, I've never been to BotCon, though, which is weird. I've almost been to something similar a couple times, but not quite BotCon. Sure. But yeah, there have been so many iterations of Transformers. 40th anniversary. This is the 40th anniversary love letter to the fans. So, yeah, I keep doing them. Keep cranking out love letters to the fans. Because, yeah, I figured why not just film and play with my toys for well over 40 years, but rather film them, play with them, and then post them online. Because why not? Transform your adventure. Autobots, transform and roll out. Gears grind as they transform. And parts fly off. And broken robot clang assembles kind of a car and then kind of goes. And tire falls off. Tink, tink, tink. Car door flips open. Whips out, pulls his arm, pulls the door shut. Transformers hoopty. Hoopty-formers. Oh no! What happened to you, Ghettotron? Clang! Yeah. We know the movies are reading our stuff. Definitely. They should hire us. They haven't, but they should. And as for the World Class Bullshitters website going on about the toys and Hasbro issues, it's like, not really. Don't worry about it. But the thing is, like, the last movie, Rise of the Beasts, did feature Transitron. He was in it. Transitron is in it. You can go online, you can find the scene where Transitron's scene was cut. He was in it. Yep, Optimus Prime beats up Transitron. Yeah, go watch that. Anyway, that's the end of this for now. And I didn't put it in the movie, they cut it out. Yeah. Brief making of for this scene. Just to note that the Blitzwing is actually the G.I. Joe vehicle walking around in there. And the others are exosuit Transformers and Chip. Yeah. So that's what's going on. So note in, I guess this is making of, briefly, that we are going to jump a little bit ahead to do the remainder of the scenes with Chip in the weird lair and the Joes. Because they're really awkward to film, and yeah, so we're doing that. The Joes and the Mecha doing that. That's what we're doing. So we're going on to a little later in the script. So we are stopping for the evening. This is page 48 to 51, roughly. That was one scene, a few pages ahead in the script, into the next act. But, the middle of the second act. But I didn't want to go any further with that. Because the other scenes are different and they're in a different place. Things are happening a little differently. The Autobots show up and they help them. So the next couple, the Decepticons also show up. They do some protection to get in there. But that would change things a little bit. We're still going to go ahead with this and do other footage with these two scenes. But they're fairly easy. So, yeah, the two bridge things. I want to do that tomorrow. And do the other scenes that involve them in those two little mini bridges. And do that then. Because then it flows better. You don't want to rush that. It's kind of important information and dialogue and story in there with the different characters. And if you go on too far ahead, I know it's only another 2 acts, but if you go on too far ahead, it confuses and convolutes it when you try to edit it later. This was fine because it was just one scene where they go on ahead and Spike and Chip have their little discussion, 3 pages. You should be able to edit that. That's fine. That's like a whole block that goes in there. Yeah, so yeah, the Joes are in this little structure here. That should be fairly easy to replicate in the future. Just put it back up. But if you want to just leave it up and shoot it tomorrow and shoot all the scenes with the 4 of them in there, I think because it's rather static, that you probably don't want to do that. You want to take it down and do the other scenes up to the next scene where they all appear, so they can move them around, do things. But always have Hawk on stage left, and the other on stage right. You know, you want to end now for the evening. Started actually kind of late to begin with, but got a lot done. We're not on a time schedule. If we finish Act 2 tomorrow, that's great. So we're not on the schedule. But I'm sure that a lot of Act 2 will be easier because there's not a lot of fighting going on. Mainly the Wrath stuff is the excitement going on, while the rest of them are searching around in a building for stuff, in a space station, walking around. So yeah, it's kind of the reverse of the. It's in a way, it is similar to that Star Trek story where they have a character who's brought back from the dead who wants to stay or obliterate himself or go through a space bridge. Kind of the same plot. Sort of a weird Star Trek Death Wish Transformers thing, where a sort of a spirit, a ghost character comes back and he doesn't belong in either universe. It's kind of an interesting idea, and that's kind of what you did with the other one. So yeah, they're similar. The elements of that are implicit in Mom's love of mysteries and mystery stories and strange events and things like that. So that part of it is some of her stuff, shtick over the years. No official dialogue though. It's all its own thing. But yeah, there's that whole thing, dynamic going on. Definitely mystery. Unpack the mystery box and the Pandora's box and all the other kind of boxes, you know. And go into the literature, and they go on their quest. The silly Star Trek one is of course more silly and outgoing and goofy and flamboyant. This one is more serious, but it's not serious. It's like it just doesn't have jokes, except for the part where the Dinobots break the power matrix. A mini power matrix that they broke. That was big enough for them to carry, and it's a toy. It's a if you want one, I think they still make them. The Spencer Gifts and the Spirit Store. Yeah, the Halloween blinky light thing. It wasn't really broken. It was fake to break it. But yeah, we have a couple of those Halloween Spirit Store things, and they're from a long time ago. So they're from the Robotech and the other thing. So yeah, we've had them. There was nothing new. It was stuff we had. Some of the Transformers are new though. The Ironhide, well, newer. The Ironhide and the Generations Wonder from like a year ago or something. Anyway, so yeah, and of course the final Dinobot is in there. We have all the 4 Dinobots that came out. They have not announced Swoop, so I don't know if they're ever going to come out with an 86 Swoop. There's one reason to do this movie was we have Sludge now, so we have Snarl now, so we'll do with Snarl in it. But yeah, and also thought it would be fun to do like a goofy Power Matrix type of thing. And it is a similar script written at the same time to the other one. It's sort of kind of the reverse. It's kind of like, they go on the quest. It's mixed. It's not reversed. It's like they mixed it up. They had some more questing in the 3rd and 4th act than they had in the Star Trek one where the questing was at the beginning. So they kind of just shifted things around a little bit. And this one, the first act is just getting them to the wormhole to go where they're going, whereas the the other one's yeah, and you can't really move a planet ship. But then again, Unicron doesn't make sense either. So, with it's canon within the show, it can make sense. Also, Wrath was originally a place, an idea, a sim thing. It wasn't a planet. It was like a future Cybertron that had been taken over in those stories. It was like a different timeline, goofy stuff going on. If we change that to a planet to establish it, it's sort of like a sibling of Unicron, a lesser sibling. Also, the cool idea of having the Forge of Solus be way bigger than just a forge device that she had, but rather a forge. There's like a star system where stuff is going to be created. They're going to go to that in outside null space. Yeah, because they're like Celestials. They're like Marvel Celestials. They basically, even though the Marvel Celestials movie is kind of lame, the idea of having like the Celestials, like these like cosmic beings, is implicit in Transformers anyway, because often Apocrypha and B canon has said Unicron was a Celestial, and so was Primus. So they were Celestials. So there are aspects of Primus and Unicron are out there. And the Decepticons are an aspect of the 13 Primes, or the 13 warriors that were sent to fight the kind of like it's a samurai thing. 13 warriors sent out to fight the Unicron or some other evil force and destroy it. Fight a planetoid that eats planets. In the movie, he seemed to be way bigger and then he gets shrunk because he became a transformer. He wasn't all that tall. But yeah, don't know how that works. Anyway, so that is all for the evening. Yeah. Everybody's doing that song. Don't add too much to this, but we're not adding anything. But we just this catches us up to page 48, the end of page 47 to 48, where you're going to put it together, where it's there's a spike scene where he ties into the computer, and it's gonna tie into the computer. They're gonna go to Wrath and tie into the computer, and he's gonna do that. And then we filmed a few minutes of that last night. We filmed up to 53, which will take us back to the scene where, which will take us up to 53, 54, where Prime is talking, or Primary is talking to Megatron. Primary is Megatron's namesake's ancestor's ex-girlfriend, Galvatron being the spinoff of that, from way back. And when they were like space gods, it was bigger than that. Like there were space gods, and Solus Prime, not just having a forge weapon, but apparently Solus Prime being like a demigod, had made an entire solar system. Well, the solar system is called the Prima solar system, where the Transformers originated. That makes the other thing make sense in Call of the Primitives. If that was actually like where Cybertron originated and they built it. And they have wormholes to go back and forth in space bridges, which was established in G1 in Season 1. They can just move planets. They can do that, because they did in that episode. It's completely ridiculous, but they did. So they can move planets. The Transformers are going to get the humans are going to get some help moving a planet. Moving another planet. Space bridges and stuff, even though that would completely devastate a solar system. But space is vast, so maybe they, just out of gravitational orbit, they put them back. Resonance returns. Anyway, so let's do the next scene. It's about 7:20 in the evening, and we're going to knock out all of the planet ship footage, which isn't very much. So we're going to do the rest of it, then you can go back and do the ship stuff. There's really about page 69 to 92, 70 to 92, 22 pages. So there's about there's we're gonna have to film some tomorrow, obviously. So these few scenes are like 5 pages. So let's finish them. 4 or 5 pages. Let's do it. So yeah, that is all for the evening. We managed to knock out all of Act 2, and then a little bit, about half of Act 3. Yeah, so just a little bit more tomorrow. But we didn't need to rush and do all of Act 2 tonight. We don't need to stay up. That's kind of what we did with the Star Trek one. We just stayed up really late and finished it. We don't need to do that on this one. We can do another for filming later on. That's fine. And I wanted to get done with the people on the planet ship and the G.I. Joes and that stuff. I wanted to finish that because those little figures on those little seats are really annoying. And I wanted to get that all done because they're falling over, and I wanted to get that over with. So they'll fall over again when they're in the shuttle bay on Skylinks, but at least there you can have them standing against something or something other than that little diorama, and they'll be safe. Also, as you can see, they cluster into the scenes, even though there's a dozen Autobots and 3 Decepticons and 8 Autobots on the station. There are about 12 more Transformers on the Wrath planet. So, also, it is similar to the Star Trek story. They bring a guy back from the dead, and he wants to stay on the planet and stay behind. Except in the Star Trek one, the guy had been brought back from the dead in holographic form, and then reanimated by Q. And had been living his life for 30 years on a planet all alone. Whereas this one is more like, well, Chip gets rebuilt as a robot, and he's immediately created. So he's and hasn't been alone for any time at all. Although apparently for 14 years he was in the computer, so he kind of was alone there. So I guess it's kind of similar. But yeah, also note that Chip said there's always a backup. So they could do the Data Sung thing and just like download it and get into a robot. They totally could do that again. So yeah, they don't in this episode. I don't know if they're gonna do that, but I just threw that line in there. So it's in the script. But yeah, they're moving planets, but the idea was silly. But Unicron was a planet, and he moved, and they didn't explain it. So they've done this kind of thing before. Basically, he's a Celestial. Basically, he's like a Galactus kind of thing. And they were thinking Marvel. Yes, they were totally thinking Marvel Comics back then. Transformers and Marvel Comics were related back then. They were a Marvel comic. Then they were IDW, and then there were a bunch of Dreamwave, and a bunch of other people did them. But originally they were Marvel. So yeah. But yeah, the Forge of Solus Prime being a solar system is kind of cool. I did change one of the lines there. It said that they dismantled a star. No, they dismantled a gas giant with all the elements inside it and did that. That's still godlike. They still have godlike powers, but a whole star. Yeah, there's a neutron star they harvested. Oh, so they're pretty advanced, whatever they were. So anyway, yeah, it's a way cooler origin for the Transformers than they actually envisioned with the 13 Primes. And you can imagine the 13 Primes were different aspects of Primus in the story, and that they were later, and that there were originally 13 before these aspects of Primus, and that's Solus Prime stipulation. Solus as in solar, not soulless. Solus as in solar Prime. So yeah, that's all for the evening. Next tomorrow we go on and do some more and finish filming the Transformers 40th anniversary movie special, Transtech fan film. Yeah. So, and then note about the Transitron. Yeah, they pulled over our guys in there. Well, not in this one. That was in Rise of the Beasts. Yes. They cut it out. It was an outtake. Really, he should have been ex-Lawbus in Morton Roadkill. But, you know, I should be named ex-Lawbus. You know, because that's who he would be. Ex-Lawbus. But no, he looked more like a transit bus. He looked more like Bussy Man. Not Bussy, but Bussy Man. Bus Man. Not the other thing. Ew. But yes, of course the sacrifice is a little goofy here in the story, but yeah, it's fine. Transformers. Sure. Why not? And he looks like Ironhide, that's funny. Yeah, so yeah, it's not as amusing as the Star Trek story outwardly. It's just bizarre and quirky. That's fine. Yeah, it's clearly a more fun alt mush story written in the mush style. It's very much written in the mush style. So yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's it. Okay, we got some scene reshoots to do. They should be quick. Yeah, there's. Let's see, you can see some reshoots. Okay. I think I can see the camera in his fucking chest. Oh, great. I can see my reflection in his chest. Oh, that's just great. Yep. So yes, yeah. Before we go on to the remaining 15 pages of the story, 15 pages left, we have to do some reshoots. Watching the dailies through this, and it isn't just the daily did last night, where you had to go back and reshoot Chip Chase, and it did, so it's in there, and it's okay, it's fine. The GI Joes. The scene where the G.I. Joes are in that really problematic, like, box. They're supposed to be inside the Blitzwing robot. The teaser footage is fine. The teaser footage base is fine. In fact, duplicate that for the rest of the Joe scenes. And reshoot the remaining scenes with him. Footage from page 17 all the way back there, all of the vehicle footage. You probably don't need to do a big elaborate, we're going to go back and reshoot 20 lines by the various G.I. Joes again. What you do is we're just going to film some static shots of the Joes in that base, in the vehicle that they're in, because we're not sure what kind of vehicle they're in, and then you just put those, plop the scenes into the movie. I suppose in terms of order of story, it would be easier to read the lines again, but yeah, you kind of have to. You want to make that, you want to, that weird green base thing that it was assembled. A similar problem occurred with the Robotech story, where we just had to film heads floating of G.I. Joes in dark spaces, because there was literally no way to make it look like they weren't 3.5 inches tall and in a room. It just did not work. So it just said, okay, they're at controls in a room and go back and forth between them, because they could be driving. Make it more like Power Rangers than you did, basically. The 4 of them are lined up at a console. Then film them in the console, in the ship,
It actually makes it look more claustrophobic. It actually makes it work better. Do all Joe scenes with them just they're in this claustrophobic little thing, but make it wide enough that you can film in it and make it like, and they're just 1, 2, 3, 4 back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, all the way through, and because the scenes just don't look good like that. You have the shots of the robot, and that's fine, but they're in a battle tank. Similar to like on Robotech when they would show a close-up of somebody in a battle tank, and they'd be inside, and they see their headshot, and they're in battle tank. Yeah, so that's what you got to do. It's the easiest way to do it. In fact, you could set them all down in a chair, have them all sitting in chairs, and just go just do that, because that's the easiest way to do that. So let's do that first, and then go on to the last 15 minutes of the story. So this is a form reshoot of pretty much all the G.I. Joe stuff post teaser. I believe the teaser was fine. I looked at the teaser was fine. It's when we come up to them later on that it just doesn't work at all. They move around, they shift, it doesn't look like they're in something. It looks like they're in a playset. Well, it is a playset, but at least we can make it look less like a playset by having them all lined up in standing still against something so they can't move. Film. Guy back to other guy. Film. Like we did the Transformers in their set. So this is the smaller version. Let's do it. Okay. These are going to be reshoots of scenes involving the Joes. So all of that other footage from page 17 on, and it's not a lot, it really isn't, reshoot it right now. And you're going to go back and forth. They're inside the mecha. They're in the mecha. We don't really need a shot of the mecha. We have that. So here they are. They're in the mecha. So let's do that. And you're just going to see their faces. That's it. So I had to reshoot basically all of the lines in the tank mecha. Flint and the crew in the tank mecha. You can just so all those other scenes that would have been really problematic to shoot, where there were different pages and stages and stuff, makes it a little harder for this one. But if you follow the script, you'll find it. They're all in one place. They're all retakes of the other scenes. So they for the Joe scenes in the mecha, and it looked way better. It way better. We did the Robotech type of thing, way better, and it looked funny before. Just having them all in a room makes sense. Well, why have them forward and backward and focusing back and forth and overthinking how the scene would work when they're basically cramped in the chest of this giant mech tank. They probably can't move anywhere, so they're just stuck in there. Doesn't matter if they probably didn't have enough air. We didn't think about that. But the last lines they have is the lines that they have a ship. They're on their way. Presumably they escaped. It's not a setup for a sequel or anything. It's just they escaped. Everyone else gets back to Skylinks. Skylinks is supposed to be pretty big. It's a space shuttle thing, basically. An Astro Train never made any sense. He was a tiny little guy. Transformed into a giant shuttle big enough to carry the Decepticons around. Like, how does that work? I don't know. Anyway, so mass shifting. Yeah, that's it. Anyway. That takes us up to page 85, and we filmed most of that, so. The next scene is they're on Skylinks heading out. It's a little bit later, page 88, I think. This is the big finish. 2.5 pages from the end of the whole thing, and now it's lunchtime. So, anyway, so the RC kit is kind of similar to the Star Trek story. They were written at the same time, so there's like similar plot threads that are similar. Yeah, they can move a planet ships. Yeah, but clearly the alien is in on it, and the alien's doing stuff, and Bludgeon
has like the spark fragment of one of the combiner guy. That makes sense if the story's put together, and that a version of Amalgamus came to the other ones on the planet and tried to stop him, and then when he died, and then yeah, so it makes sense that that's what's going on. That the security thing like knew somehow, and moved the planet to go to him. It makes sense. It's mystical and weird, but so what? It's Transformers mythos stuff. The primes, and none of the primes are confused in the story. We don't meet the other 3 or 4 really, just the ones that they introduced. Yeah, there you go. Ew. But yes, Pinterval Photography just wrapped on the quest to move planets. Transformers 40th anniversary special episode. Although Robotech Meets the Transformers was kind of that already, this is a continuation, and that kind of wrapping things up from Transformers Mush that we left hanging. I always like to wrap up a story that was hanging there. It's just like, okay, yeah, there's a canceled show, and they never come up with a finale to wrap things up, leave it. No, they didn't have things. It didn't get canceled. It was just over. So this was the movie of the other one, that a continuation of things you didn't get. The Wrath planet was left in the Sol system. Apparently Cybertron's still there, but they moved it. So they can move it at will if they want to. Yeah, so also by including the G.I. Joe, the G.I. Joe version of Blitzwing at the end, and some visuals there, visual candy, just to give to the audience watching. Okay, all these guys got rescued and they're on Skylynx. In an earlier version of the draft of the script, they were all going to go to Earth, and there was going to be a scene where they were on Earth discussing the nature of philosophy and stuff. That didn't make it into this version. Transformers philosophy is, of course, weird, and it doesn't go with anything. It's like a weird. It's not even a cult or religion or anything. The idea of these 13 demigod prime things running around is if anything Babylonian kind of. It's weird. But yeah, it's not directly related to anything. Really. There was supposed to be a line about like what the human god is different from the Transformer god. But that really didn't need to be in there because they clearly conveyed in the story that they were not going to go there anyway, so didn't need that scene. Sort of like how there were deleted scenes from Danny Villeneuve's Dune movies, but you'll never see them because why include them? In the case of crappier movies like Alien Covenant and Alien Prometheus, they needed those deleted scenes in the movie. It still wouldn't help, but yeah. But in this case, here when I do a fan film, it's typical for the stories we do the fan film for them not to. Yeah, they don't. Typical for them not to have any deleted scenes, really. The script is very tight each time. We were using fan scripts before with All Transformers Mush and Lexicons. We were not going to get in trouble because those fan films were very old. They were stories that were not meant to be made into a film episode, and we made them into episodes. And they were 20 years old, and we gave them bylines, but it was fine. It would fall under fair use as parody, spoof, or adaptation, and that's what we did. And this one is an adaptation of that same universe with a little bit more, little bit of essence here and there of some of Mom's writing style, although it's not really anything she talked about. There's only like little tidbits. There's a line from the Duluth nun, Sister Mary, I think, who said, "A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still." It was equated to a grandmother. There was a line that didn't end up in the script about a cat that had these two cats siblings, and they were, yeah. They got together. The old lady was freaked out that the cat was pregnant, and that was the joke. That's her brother. But yeah, that was that was one of Mom's stories from her side of the family. It was actually grandma her namesake Victoria told that story. And it wasn't on the Grandma Knapp side. It was on the on the own side. But yes. So we have the Leon Mayer side. So here we have a peculiar little snippet. It's not a wholly unnecessary story. It continues the story with these slightly smaller Earthrise people. Only the caveat that their articulation looks better, but they're getting smaller and smaller, and it's kind of ridiculous. But compared to those Studio Series Dinobots, they look great. They did the Studio Series Dinobots right there. They got 4 of them. Only got the Sludge. At one point during production yesterday, we realized that Sludge was missing part of his back piece, and went in search of it for like 2 hours, and found it. Remarkably enough, it found it. And stuck it on there, but it doesn't break the story. You can't see it anyway. It's behind him. And yes, nobody actually transforms in our Transform movie. Again, transform and roll out, but don't show it. Yeah. And the implication of their escape from the planet ship when Skylinks warns them is that it's going to take them a while to get out of the ship. The same while it took for them to get into the ship. So they're down this gigantic space station, and they got to go back the other way to get to Skylinks to escape. The last scenes are, of course, on Skylinks, and not on Earth. There was going to be an Earth scene. That's just too much moving around. Skylinks is fine. Back to the solar system. Megatron's G2 Megatron, who is an Earthrise reissue. Select, if you want one, get one. Select one. I think the hot rod is a Studio Series hot rod. Small though. Yeah. It's weird though. Some of the G1 guys aren't much bigger than that. Like the original G1 Jazz and them aren't much bigger than them. It's that Bumblebee generation guy. The Prime's about the same size. But there was an era when they were really tall and big, and they were as big as the Dinobots over there. Those were leader class. The scale has gotten quite different. Also, somebody else was also on the net complaining about Hasbro and Marvel and the action figures being janky. But yeah, I don't know how much Hasbro is actually involved in for the Hasbro. So I don't know how much Hasbro was really involved in the Star Wars figures. I think they farmed them out. They farmed out the G.I. Joe ones to Reflector, and although they look like G.I. Joes, they're not articulated at all. They're like G.I. Joes, so they're like Star Wars now. They used to be more articulated earlier. So I'm thinking Reflector's doing the Star Wars ones too, and that's why they're kind of crap. So yeah, it's not Hasbro doing it. They're farming it out to somebody. It's funny that for a while now they've been doing that packaging without plastic, and people have been assholes, and they've been stealing the heads off the Transformers. Great. So yeah, they're not. But yeah, you'd go in there and find like a whole row of them, like a whole row of Bulk heads, a whole row of Jazzes and Blue Streaks with their heads just not there anymore. It's gone. So yeah, not recently, but it was a while back. There was a headless Optimus Prime recently. It was a Earthspark Optimus Prime. We would have included some Earthspark characters, except they didn't. They made some of them. They made Twitch. The flying one, the drone one, and they made some of the other crossover ones, but they didn't really. Yeah, they're much more kiddish. I would have bought the trans one because it's awesome, the owl one, but I did not. They didn't have one. I think you can go on Amazon Selects and get it, but they don't really have it as a. Yeah, get it on Amazon unless somebody's like lying. That's happened on occasion. I tried to order the Studio Series, the Velocitron GoBot Crasher, and allegedly from the Transformer site, and they
they then canceled it like 3 days later and said, "Oh, this order's just canceled." Yeah, and that other site was gone. And then the other two, and then it popped up again, and then it was canceled. Other people were saying it was canceled. So there was like a fake person selling this GoBot, and it wasn't. It wasn't the real thing. It was a faker. But yeah, we don't really buy many of the new ones nowadays. I think the Sledge was the last one. Some of the ship ones. I didn't bother including the Ark and the Nemesis in the story. I thought that was a little much, and I got them, but I didn't bother. I just figured let's use the footage. Yeah, I mean for a spring movie in March here, it didn't seem to have any point to just let's bring in the ships from G and throw them into. It would just look weird, just look strange. Yeah. So yeah, there aren't any tights in this, which is kind of funny. Yeah, so it's also similar. They bring back the other hub people from lexicons and sort of erase some of them from existence at the end. They also have imply that Primary was connected to the other ones in that world, and she was able to help them escape. That's what was going on. Chip also helped to escape. And they did mention that he has a backup, and yeah, that doesn't come to play in the story. But yeah, there's always the door open for like, oh, if you want to like somehow do it again, another Transformer ship. Yeah, that particular Ironhide is the Ironhide from Studio Series, and unfortunately has a very shiny chest. You can see everyone acting in front of it. The chest, so we had to reshoot that footage, and also today we had to reshoot all the G.I. Joe footage in the vehicle and make it look more like the Robotech vehicle or a Zord, Silly Kelly Zord, and it looks better. Like they just put them in a room in a line and just one after the other, put them in there. Don't do the focus pulling. It doesn't work. Yeah. There's a tight script. It's an amusing, witty script. I would say it's less straight up comedy like haha laugh out loud like the Star Trek one is. It's witty. It's clever. It does feature them actually finally giving their comeuppance to Bludgeon, which was funny. Shot him in the back. The bad guy's all like, yes, a laser blaster stops. Laser blaster stops Karate Ninja, which is a beam. Laser blaster stops Karate Ninja. Somebody referenced the Skibidi toilet. Somebody referenced Cringe. A lot of things got referenced. Yeah, the toilet head people, which they got from Critters, I believe, and Ghoulies and Critters. Ghoulies, I think. Yeah, they just didn't say it right. It's Ghoulies. It's sort of like how the Five Nights at Freddy's guys are all Five Nights at Freddy's are so clever, but Five Nights at Freddy's is a spoof of Chuck E. Cheese. It's like, but that's a spoof. Why don't they make a Chuck E. Cheese movie first? Then, yeah. Sort of like how MacGruber came out, it was a parody of MacGyver, but they never made a MacGyver movie, so nobody got it. They didn't get the joke. It's a Saturday Night Live spoof of MacGyver. And they made a movie. Yeah, stop remaking stuff. They made a Roadhouse movie. Stop remaking stuff. Now with Transformers, you can remake stuff because you have Transformers toys and all that stuff. You have means to go on an adventure, or cast together, and some visuals showing they're all back in the mothership shuttlecraft. And time is passing as they show them. So that's what's going on with the time is passing stuff. In terms of time is passing, this story takes place over roughly 3 days, but they have space warps and can travel across the galaxy. I don't know why the Robotechs didn't have that in the Robotech story. Not as well, anyway. They didn't. Their liminal drives didn't work as well. But the Transformers apparently have instantaneous fold systems. And you might say, well, that isn't really what they have, is it? But it's canon.
The Ultimate Doom and More Than Meets the Eye, OG first two short movies, they had the ability to warp a planet through space-time to the Earth from the Kandura system instantaneously. So they have instantaneous warp travel in Transformers. Even though it's silly, they had that. And where did they put the planet afterward? They didn't say. They put it back in the Kandura system, I guess. Ginormous space bridge. In the apex beyond this galaxy. He meant solar system. Yes, because early in sci-fi stories it was a galaxy. I think no, solar system. Yeah. So, there you are. They do what they do. Yeah. I'm not going to do a scene where they bring back Chip again and he shows up and I just did it for this episode. Primary is the antithesis of that. She goes back. Yeah, which wasn't explicit in the script, but should have been, because she then turns around to leave, and they just go with it. They're like, all right. Ew. And also, if you didn't catch it entirely in the story, there are other hubs like the Solus Prime one that were built as copies. She mentions that at one point, that the Liege Maximo had one. Presumably, Amalgamus also had one. And there's other ones like it out in the galaxy. So they can use the Space Bridge hub of another faction of another Primus, and that'll work. So if they need to go Space Bridging again. But yes, so that's rather convoluted, but sure. They want to go yeah, 40th anniversary of Transformers. First Transformer was a Sideswipe, and it was followed by like a Thundercracker and Sunstreaker and Skyfire, Jetfire, and Devastator after that, and then they just kept coming. Original Trans series, the Transformers Trans series in 1986, my fan film started in 1986 with the show that was still on the air before the movie, and it was we originally had a pact of Autobots where there was no Optimus Prime there because they didn't own one. That's all. At the time, just cycled through various other ones. Mark's Cards had some Transformers. He had a Megatron and a Jetfire. Some other one. Tim had the most. Tim Cantrell, he had the most Transformers. I surpassed him around, let's see, 1996 or 97. But back in 87, we were doing the filming on one of these movies, fan film, and he put a bunch of his toys in a big sack in the back of his mother's car, and some of mine and some of his, and she's a banker. She's a bank parking lot. His mother was a banker. And somebody broke into the car to steal the sack, thinking it was going to be money. It wasn't money, it was Transformer toys. Unfortunately, some of his toys were left at my house. I did not put them in the sack. I kept them. So I still have your Superion and stuff. All that. So back in the day, we had those. We also trade off and stuff. We'd also go to the Time Tunnel toy, Big Wow, and all that, and Big Wow started later, in the 2000s. Time Tunnel toy, and we would do that, and Legends and some of the other comic shops would have toys for sale, Transformers and stuff. There was one instance where Jim Buffkin, the other member of the group, had some Transformers, and he went to he had sold off his Weirdwolf at the Valco store and told me that he gave his Weirdwolf over to the Valco. He sold it. So I ran over to the Valco on the bus. It was still there, and I got his Weirdwolf. Got his Weirdwolf back. I also have one of his. I also had his Triptychon and his Fortress Maximus. It fell apart. Yeah, Fortress Maximus. It was a mess. I have the newer one too, but yeah, the let's go on. But but the Triptychon's still around. I think the Triptychons. Maybe I gave those. Did I give those Triptychons away? I don't know. I might have given them away. The bigger ones, but not the main ones. Anyway, so yeah, there were other various Transformer collectible thingies. At one point, we went to a toy show thingy, one of the time tunnel toys and things, and there was a big there was a Trypticon, a black Trypticon. That was a Godzilla Trypticon. You got that. And it turned out it's actually worth something, so we kept that in the box. Various other characters during the Beast Wars and Beast Metals era and all that stuff. Characters and toys. Yeah, I passed them in '95. Yeah, a lot of toys. Oh, and then the Carta stories, we broke some of them. So they got heavy and burnt them. Really played with. Starting with an Optimus Prime. One of the only ones on YouTube was an Optimus. Somebody setting fire to a Power Master Optimus Prime. But it was done with supervision, and it was also done so that it was an old one. It was broken inside. So, but yeah, yeah, don't do that. Yeah, no, don't do that. It's not the '90s. The crazy '90s. We dropped Jim's Trypticon from the roof, and it didn't burst into a million pieces. We dropped it from the landing balcony. In one of those, the fan films. We did a lot of crazy stuff. This one didn't do anything like that. Nobody got harmed in the making of this one. We did recover we did get a remake of the bartender guy. The broken bartender guy. We found one at Big Wow a couple months ago. Mark's Cards and I did, and the other guy too. So we got this guy back. I think he's just a transmetal pterosaur is what he is, technically. Yeah, but he's intact. He's never broken off arm. So there he is. I think he was supposed to play one of the Prime guys. I'm not sure if he ended up doing it. I think he might have. Also, Rakshi was there. Raksha and Rakshi. Oh yes, this is the other Night Racer. The other Night Racer, yeah. This is Michael Bay's attempt to do a Night Racer. Not bad. Stealth Bumblebee, Night Racer. Yeah, what's our other one? So yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, Raksha and Rakshi, that whole story arc thing. It's fun. But yeah, the shorter one in the story is the granddaughter of Night Racer. Raksha doesn't actually have a granddaughter in real life. I don't think. But funny is, he was the BotCon lady, and that she was at one of the conventions. Was it Fanime? I think it was Fanime. Was it last summer or was it the summer before? Might have been last summer. And we were at the Fanime because I knew she was going to be there, so I did a video talking about Raksha, the bizarre Decepticon lover lady that wanted the Decepticons to be in charge and everything. And I did a thing on there saying she's still around. Yeah, she's totally still around, and hinting at something with involving Raksha. And so there was a convention in 2023, and there she was. She was at the convention. She was a snake handler. She had a bunch of other snakes. She liked snakes. She was the snake people. That's the footage. That's Raksha. You get to see her hands briefly in my video. Not her face, just her hands. Well, her friend's face, but not hers. Her hands are in the video, holding the snake. Anyway, it's like that Dukes of Hazzard song. You just see their face and they have their hands on TV. You know, I forgot that thing. And also DVDs have rotted. They're saying that all the DVDs have rotted. They're degrading massively. So all the DVD collection that I did give up last year is most of it probably was rotting, sitting on the shelves, so it wasn't worth anything. And so we have, but it gave it away, so it doesn't matter. Anyway, so we have, nobody paid money for it. So we have, Prime story here. Did a Robotech meets the Transformers update thing, the Sentinel story, a couple months ago. And we did a Star Trek one just now, recently, very recently. And it's doing well on the Chimera channel. See, it's getting a lot of views already. It's just like 2 days up, 3 days up. Yeah. So yeah. But the overuse of Legacy and everything, like Legacy Transformers and Legacy this, Legacy that, has caused the guys at DC to not call that new movie Superman Legacy, but just to call it Superman. But yes, and I don't know anything about the empires and all that stuff. Yeah, so yes, it is mysticism in the story, but kind of made up. Yes, and they gave this person Bolshevik accent because he kind of looks like he's industrial. His head kind of looks like he's industrial. So, it's something they would make for a mask. Yeah, that's thoroughly interesting experience doing that. Shouldn't be any post-production problems or issues. Caught everything. There's a brief blurry skylinks way back there, but I think you can fix that just by using the other footage of skylinks. It doesn't matter that he's in a bay the whole time and he's never in space. And yeah, get stock footage from the bases and superstructures and megastructures. Video thing. To do that. Sure. Yeah. Even though it's ludicrous that they're moving a planet in the story, they could do that. There's Unicron. They existed too in '86. So they can just do that. They have the ability to move planets around. Yeah, so is this canon with the other Space Bridge universe? It's not technically the Space Bridge universe. They do say that it's not really either. And the Ultra Magnus is with the Robotech people. And if the Robotech expedition, according to that story, returns in what did I say? It returned in 2136 or 37 or something like that. A little later. Yeah, they're a little while off. Another 11 years 12 years until they. Yeah, if it's 2024 or 2024 and then 37, 13 years later, they'll be back. They shouldn't wait for them. That doesn't mean we're going to wait 13 years to make another story. If we come up with something, we'll film it. I wouldn't be surprised if this story that references the Primes is similar in tone to Transformers 1, which is coming out. Following the same sort of genesis. Hopefully they come up with something new and original that's only their own, because really the Dreamwave to the IDW Prime stuff, to the Michael Bayverse Prime stuff, in which he just kills most of them in that pyramid. Yeah, all of that stuff is kind of confusing, so hopefully they don't do that. I just included, well, what did I have in this one? I had a sort of a pseudo Primus, who was actually just a recording. You had, but maybe he wasn't. Maybe he had powers. So he was the ghost in the machine. That was what was going on. A Dracatron messed with so he'd been to the base. He messed with it before he died. No. So there was various other characters, not Draconus Prime, but Dracatron. There was. Yeah, so when they mentioned Quintus Prime, they mentioned Alpha Trion, they showed him. They mentioned Amalgamus, and I don't think they mentioned Animalus, actually. I thought they were going to, but no, they didn't. Amalgamus is the creator of the transformation cog. So, the tool that's the transformation cog. Yeah, allegedly. The quill of the Covenant of Primus is probably the silliest one. Well, they also have the guy with the darts, who's like a Loki character, Amalgamus or the Onyx or whatever. And then they have the other ones. Yeah, it's kind of silly. So I made it a little cooler. I made it sound like, okay, the robot primes that were built later to kind of represent them, that are the descendants of all the ancestors of all these guys. They're different from the demigods they represented, which is way cooler. And they went to the planet of the Forge of Solus Prime, where they forged Cybertron and Unicron and Wrath. That's actually way cooler. That makes it sound like Solus Prime was not only the butt-kicking deity of the universe that another one of the other deities killed off. Megatronus killed off, became the Fallen. But rather that she was also capable of making a solar system. Damn. That's some cat level 4, not 2 technology. It's cat level 4. The demigods can build a star system. Oh, shit. Damn. Yeah, the original celestial prime should be like demigods capable of building solar systems and moving planets. And that's how they can do it. It's because the demigods are helping them because they're still around in their spirit. Ooh. Which does seem kind of a little bit zen, a little bit zen, but it's definitely not Judeo-Christian. It's something else. I don't know. So yeah, but it's a fiction fantasy story, and you have to have fantasy characters that are above them all. Otherwise, you don't have a game master in your games. They said the paladin. Yeah, that's what I was mentioning, the paladin, but the paladin is, not the game master. The paladin is the other guy. You got that wrong. There's some dude on YouTube mentioning, it's like was it? Oh, it was John Champia was mentioning the paladin and the game master. The paladin, the paladin's not above the game master, is he? No, he's just a wizard for the game master. He's like he's like the Merlin basically. Anyways, which is fine, but Optimus Prime and Megatron, no. Doesn't lead to Earthrise because the Earthrise timeline, although fun and kind of silly, doesn't really make sense in this universe. The idea that the Transformers just kind of like got together and then pretended like only some of the Decepticons are evil, that's not going to happen in this universe. So this story is more like, okay, it's straight up Autobots and Decepticons, because the Decepticons are still deceptive and evil. The Autobots are still good and heroic. It's what it always was. Also, the character development is on point. So it's not like a Michael Bay movie where you're like, and more Springer. Who doesn't want more Springer? And the Dinobots and stuff. It's like, wow, the Springer and the Dinobots. When they addressed the euthanize the girl story, that in the other timeline, the other Springer as Prime became jaded. And a semi-demigod himself, so he was like messed up. And they could have just rebuilt her, which is weird because it's like, wait a minute, they have powers, right, in that other universe. Why didn't they just fix her? She's a robot. What do they think of that? It's like, they literally have the power to bring them back from the dead. Just to give. Okay, you're fine. Apparently Primary's power is that Solus Prime. And it's not soulless as in soul lacking a soul. It's soulless as in solar. She controls stars. Solar Prime. I wish they do have a toy of Solus Prime. It's hard to find. It's an Ultra Magnus has been repainted. It's actually the Galaxy Force Prime, Cybertron Prime mini, the smaller version that's not really a leader. They say it is, but it's not a leader, it's a Voyager. And painted white, basically. So it's Ultra Magnus, basically. They should do something different, though. They should all be leader class, and they should all be tall. Because they're like Titans, basically. Yeah, cool. Anyway.